I never imagined a poor girl could inspire a millionaire's daughter to reclaim her life. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The world spun, and I felt like I was suffocating. I stood there in my little corner of the city, staring at the crumbling sidewalk. My heart raced. Each pulse echoed in my ears. How could something so simple lead to so much chaos? One moment, I was invisible. The next, I was in the spotlight. Her name was Clara. A name whispered among the elite, all sleek hair and designer clothes. She lived in a mansion, glittering in daylight like a diamond among peasants. I was just a girl from the wrong side of the tracks. Calloused hands and tattered shoes, the only things that defined me. But fate had a different plan in mind. On that day, I found myself outside a lavish charity gala. The jeweled chandeliers twinkled, laughter spilled like champagne. Clara stood there, her eyes dull, like she carried the weight of the world on her perfectly sculpted shoulders. I could see her trembling, barely holding it together. My chest tightened at the sight. People swirled around her, oblivious to her silent scream for help. Shadows danced, laughter rang, but hers was a heart that craved connection. Why was the rich girl so lonely? I felt drawn to her, like a moth to a flame. In that raw moment, something shifted. I had heard stories about Clara, whispers in the wind. Tales of depression, a gilded cage, the suffocating pressure of perfection. She was the golden girl, but inside? Maybe she was just a girl like me, struggling under the surface. As I approached, our eyes met, and it felt like a jolt. Her startled gaze held secrets I was desperate to uncover. I could almost taste her fear, heavy and thick. I didn't belong there, but it didn't matter anymore. I could feel her quiet pain, the desperation that mirrored my own. "Are you all right?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The crowd around us burst into laughter, but there we stood, frozen in our own world. Her response was a mere nod, but it felt like an admission of something darker. And just like that, our destinies intertwined. We were at opposite ends of a spectrum, yet gravity pulled us closer. What could a poor girl from the streets teach a millionaire's daughter about life? I didn't know then. I had no idea how much my humble existence could ignite a spark of hope in her seemingly perfect world. Suddenly, a commotion erupted. Glass shattered. A scream cut through the air. Clara and I instinctively turned, hearts racing. What now? The laughter turned to gasps, eyes wide with horror. It was chaos. Before I could even process the panic, Clara's hand found mine. The warmth of her grip sent a shiver through me. In that frantic moment, something amazing happened. I felt needed. But all around was uncertainty, confusion swirling like the dark clouds of a coming storm. As I turned to look back at Clara, her expression was a mix of fear and determination. In her eyes, I saw a flicker of bravery, a hint of rebellion against her life of constraints. Would she dare to break free? Everything around us shifted. The world was no longer just about rich glitter or poor despair. It had become a tangled web of connection, fate, and choices yet to be made. What happens next? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The chaos of the moment wrapped around us like a thick fog, drowning out the laughter and opulence of the gala. Clara's grip tightened on my hand, and just as quickly, it snapped me back to reality. The shards of glass, scattered like stars fallen from the sky, crunched underfoot as people stumbled backward, eyes wide, shock plastered on their faces. In that instant, I realized Clara had taken a step closer to the edge of her gilded cage, fear and resolve dueling in her wide eyes. I wasn't sure if I was the catalyst for her awakening or merely a witness, but either way, the tension between us crackled with possibility. "We need to get out," I whispered, trying to pierce the whirlwind of panic engulfing us, but Clara didn't budge. She was rooted in place, like a flower pushed against concrete, desperate to bloom. "No, wait," she replied, her voice quivering. "There is something I have to do." The slightest tremor of determination flickered within her, and my heart raced in tandem with her pulse. As the chaos continued around us, guests edging for the exits, some crying while others frantically dialed for help, I felt a surge of bravery in her resolve. For that moment, we were united in our vulnerability, both terrified yet exhilarated. What was she planning? "Clara, please." My voice cracked, the weight of her decision pressing down on me. "You don't have to face this alone." "I know," she said, her gaze suddenly penetrating. "It's just," she hesitated, the words stuck in her throat, curling back up like the smoke from extinguished candles. "I need to face my demons. I can't keep hiding." The world around us blurred, and it felt as if time itself collapsed in on itself. I wanted to scream out, to shake her, to make her understand that her demons could swallow her whole. She didn't have to fight them in that moment of chaos. But before I could voice my fears, she released my hand and stepped forward. In an act that stunned me and left the crowd in stunned silence, she walked towards the source of the chaos, a broken display meant to showcase a charitable auction prize. Glass glinted dangerously, but she seemed entranced, as if the shards held all her answers. "What are you doing?" I breathed, horrified. "I can't keep pretending, not anymore," she said, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. The depth of her struggle hit me harder than the explosion of glass. She had been suffocating beneath the weight of her identity, trapped in a world that defined her by her last name rather than her heart. As she knelt down, starting to pick up the pieces, I rushed to her side. "Let us do this together," I urged, pushing aside my own fears. The shards of glass were sharp, but so were the truths we both had to face. With each piece we collected, I felt as if Clara's burdens were aligning with mine, like two flares in a dark night sky. Around us, the chaos faded into a low hum, the other guests beginning to murmur and distance themselves as Clara and I formed our own pocket of clarity. I saw flashes of sympathy in the crowd, even among the elite. The tension morphed from panic to curiosity, as if we were a storm shifting the very atmosphere of the gala. Just then, I caught sight of someone emerging from the crowd, an older woman whose elegance was as piercing as Clara's fear. She wore a glimmering necklace, the very embodiment of wealth, yet her eyes held something deeper. Concern mingled with compassion, and she stepped forward, her expression a blend of resolve and understanding. That I glanced at Clara, and in that moment, something shifted within her. The panic that had gripped her began to dissolve, replaced with an unmistakable spirit of defiance. "You see, I have lived too long in someone else's story," she declared, louder than I expected. "But now, enough is enough." Her words echoed through the gathering, a powerful resonance that silenced even the most skeptical watchers. But as Clara rose back to her feet, triumph shining in her eyes, the older woman rushed to her side. Their gazes locked, and I could almost hear the unspoken questions hovering in the air. "Clara, dear," the woman said softly. "This isn't how you handle things. You have responsibilities, a family name to uphold." A raw tension hung between them, duty versus desire, freedom against the gilded chains of expectation. "Responsibilities?" Clara snapped, the steel in her voice rising. "You mean the ones that have kept me suffocated for years? I can't know, I won't let my life be dictated by some ancient script anymore." Gasps erupted around us, and just as I thought the tension could stretch no further, a new figure entered, one I had not expected. Clara's father, a towering man of privilege and power, his expression hard as stone. "What is going on here?" he demanded, his presence commanding a hush that blanketed the room. The gravity of the situation rushed back in. Clara stood resolute, but I felt my throat tighten as another piece fell into place. Her father, the architect of her facade, had arrived just in time to intercept her moment of vulnerability. As the atmosphere thickened with drama, the stakes rose higher. Nothing had been resolved, but Clara was on the precipice of rebellion both against her family's expectations and the life that had held her captive for so long. Our connection, strong as it was, felt increasingly precarious. Would this be the moment that anchored her to her truth, or would it pull her back into the very shadows she sought to escape? The uncertainty loomed like a dark cloud, threatening to envelop us both in its storm. And just as I opened my mouth to speak, the world shifted once more. Clara interrupted. "Dad, I'm ready to be myself," she said, startling me with the rawness of her voice. The eyes of the gala were pinned on her, and the reality of what she had chosen hung heavy in the air, a reckoning bound to unravel everything, and I was left holding my breath, waiting for a response. The silence that enveloped the grand ballroom was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Clara's father, towering and immovable, was clearly taken aback, his expression battling between shock and indignation. As guests shuffled uncomfortably, eyes darting between Clara and the imposing figure of her father, I felt the weight of her declaration pressing down on me. My heart raced, steeped in a mix of hope and fear. "Ready to be yourself," he echoed, his tone edged with disbelief, as if her words were an affront to the very foundation of his being. "And do you even understand what that means? You are not just Clara, you are the heir to the Martin legacy, a name that demands respect and adherence to tradition." Clara's resolve flickered for a moment, but it was quickly reignited by the fire of her determination. "That's the problem, Dad. I've never wanted to be just a name. I want to be seen for who I truly am, not the character in this play you've written for me." As her defiance hung in the air, I could feel the gaze of the spectators shifting, curiosity igniting with every syllable she uttered. But Clara's father remained rigid, exuding an aura of authority that threatened to quash her moment of courage. I could see Clara's anguish morphing, however, a chaotic blend of longing and anger swirling within her. The crowd, once horrified, began to murmur among themselves, the whispers swelling into a chorus of reactions. It was a dangerous game we were playing, one that could either liberate Clara or shackle her with thicker chains forged from familial expectations. "Don't you realize," her father countered, his voice lowering to a threatening whisper, "that if you step out of line, you risk everything? The family, the connections, the life we've built, you could lose it all." "Lose it all?" Clara stepped forward defiantly, challenging him as the facade of her composure began to crack. "I'd rather have nothing and live honestly than belong to a world that suffocates me in silk and jewels." As I watched her stand there, fiercely unyielding yet filled with vulnerability, I felt a surge of admiration mixed with foreboding. The old woman from before, the one who had stood beside Clara, shifted closer, eyes filled with a warmth that contrasted the chill in the room. She leaned in slightly, offering Clara silent support, and for a moment, the room felt less suffocating. "Clara," she spoke softly, her voice warm and nurturing, "he wants the best for you. But you have to find the balance between your heart and the legacy you carry. You can redefine what being a Martin means, if you dare." But just as Clara's attention shifted toward the woman, I could feel the weight of her father's stare heavy upon me. "And you," he snapped, directing his ire towards me like a bullet. "What role do you play in all this? A distraction? A risk to her future?" Those words cut deep, igniting a fear within me that I had endeavored to suppress. "I didn't come here to cause problems," I said, my voice trembling but resolute. "I'm here because Clara deserves a choice. She deserves to be loved and accepted for who she is, not for the family she represents." At that moment, Clara's gaze found mine, a flicker of hope igniting within her. But just as quickly, doubt clouded her features. Was I the catalyst for her awakening or merely a dangerous complication? The uncertainty loomed over us like a storm cloud, and I understood that while I could stand beside her, the choices she made would ultimately decide her fate. The tension built, a taut string nearing its breaking point. Clara's father breathed heavily, his face a mask of fury mixed with something softer, fear, perhaps, of losing her. But before he could respond, a sound broke through the charged atmosphere, a loud crash echoing through the hall. The entrance doors burst open, and suddenly, a group of journalists rushed in, their cameras flashing, drawn by the spectacle that had captivated the gala. Chaos erupted anew. "Who is that?" My mind raced as I knew that the attention had now shifted, and our moment of reckoning was in jeopardy, but Clara reached for my hand, a lifeline amidst the chaos, her grip firmer than ever. "I don't care what the world thinks anymore," she whispered fiercely, her voice filled with conviction. "I'm ready to claim my truth, no matter the cost." And just as resilience welled up in me in response, the room spun with confusion as I caught sight of the flashing cameras honing in on Clara, her father's expression darkening with each snap. It was all happening too quickly, and those words hung precariously in the air. My heart pounded as Clara took a step closer to exposure, vulnerability now blending seamlessly with courage. Suddenly, the older woman turned back to Clara's father, her presence infusing the moment with a quiet strength. "Perhaps it's time to ask ourselves what we truly risk losing if we continue to bury our truth," she said, her voice resolute. But beyond her, the crowd was growing restless as the flashes encapsulated Clara's figure, freezing her in both time and light. The press was hungry for a scandal, a story, and she stood on the brink, the past and future intersecting in a single heartbeat. That I and the whirlwind of cameras and questioning, I suddenly felt a surge of panic, a realization dawning upon me that while Clara and I were just beginning to understand our paths, the world that had upheld her family name was about to unleash a storm of its own, one I couldn't protect her from. Would she back down now that eyes were upon us, or would this be the moment that solidified her rebellion against everything she'd ever known? I wanted to reach out, to pull her back from the precipice, but the fierceness of her gaze told me everything I needed to know, and just as I prepared to speak up, to remind her of the uncertainty that lay ahead, the muffled voice of the journalist carried above the murmurs, "Clara Martin, what do you have to say about the rumors of your impending engagement?" A gasp rippled through the crowd as Clara's expression faltered, caught off guard. The question hung in the air like a fading echo, and my heart dropped as I watched the shift in her eyes. Could the truth she was ready to embrace be overshadowed by a future she hadn't chosen? I felt the ground shift beneath us, and with it, new dilemmas began to emerge, ripping at the seams of courage we had sewn tightly together. This was not over, not by a long shot. The flash of cameras flickered, momentarily obscuring my vision, but they couldn't blind me to the transformation unfolding within Clara. For a heartbeat, time felt suspended. The piercing question hung like a blade poised to fall, and I saw her inhale deeply, her chest rising and falling beneath the weight of expectations. "Engagement," she finally echoed, her voice betraying nothing more than a whisper. It was as if the very word had been spat at her. The laughter and whispers that had flowed like a tide suddenly receded, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. I could feel the tension tighten around us, a noose woven from her father's implacable gaze, the audience's heightened curiosity, and my own trepidation. As if sensing Clara's moment of hesitation, I stepped forward, my heart racing. "There's more to Clara Martin than just rumors," I declared, my voice stronger than I felt. The surrounding whispers intensified, perhaps propelled by disbelief or intrigue. Clara's father glared at me like I'd just declared war, but Clara wasn't looking at him, she was staring at me, her eyes aflame with a mixture of appreciation and desperation. I haven't agreed to anything," Clara continued, addressing the crowd, though her voice shook perilously. "Those are just rumors and they don't define who I am." In response, the room stirred, drawn to her growing defiance but equally captivated by the storm brewing behind her father's eyes. I could sense the world around us shifting, the balance of power swayed as Clara, for the first time, dared to reclaim her narrative, taking a step back both from Clara and her father's intensifying anger. I felt an urgency to protect her from the chaos that lay ahead. "You deserve to make decisions about your own life, Clara," I said softly, repositioning myself at her side. "Don't let them cage you with their expectations." The crowd held their breath, awaiting the next move in this high-stakes game of reputation and legacy. Clara's father interjected, his voice a fierce thundercloud. "This is preposterous. The public has a right to know about your responsibilities, Clara." But rather than falter, Clara stood tall, her stance shouting strength. I have responsibilities, yes. But they should come from me, not from this gilded cage you've built. Her words rang out with defiance, silencing even her father's harrowing presence momentarily. Then, just as the tide appeared to shift in Clara's favor, the crowd's attention fractured, drawn away by a new arrival. One of the younger journalists from the back had run towards Clara, shoving a microphone in her face. What if we told you this engagement will further your family's legacy? Is there something we should know about the potential groom? The question splintered the moment. An icy chill gripped me as Clara's composure began to crack, a flicker of fear shadowing her brave visage. I sensed the urgency pulse between us. If she didn't take control now, the narrative would spiral completely out of reach. Enough. Clara's father barked suddenly, bloodying the space with authority that demanded silence. You will not speak about things beyond your understanding. He turned his attention back to Clara, sprawling across the space like a storm on the horizon. You will honor the commitments our family has made, and you will do so for the good of this family. But Clara shook her head again. No. I refuse to be a pawn in this game anymore. Her voice grew steady, emboldened by the weight of the moment. I will not marry for appearances. I will not let my name steal away my truth. The tension electric in the air seemed to coil tighter, and as her words fell into the crowd, a breath caught in my throat. Not just a family feud or a delayed engagement, this was something more, a rebellion against years of silence and acquiescence. Then came the unexpected. While some in the crowd erupted in applause, others whispered in shock. It was a chaotic blend of admiration and derision, igniting a strange sense of solidarity among those who resonated with Clara's struggle. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught sight of the older woman who had offered Clara silent support. She emerged forward, her face softening the edges of the chaos. Clara, it takes unwavering strength to defy the anticipated path, she said, and her voice injected warmth into the cold, blustery confrontation. You are not alone in this battle. Every choice you make from here on out will be yours. But just as Clara turned to respond, that fiery spark of courage flickered uncertainly. I saw her father's rigid form shift as he leaned in closer, his voice low yet volatile. Make no mistake, Clara. If you refuse your duty tonight, you will face consequences far beyond what you can imagine. You are risking everything. A cold shiver ran through me, the implications of his threat painfully clear. He wasn't just invoking the family name, he was suggesting a severing of ties, a complete disownment that could leave Clara naked to the cold winds of a world that was all too often unkind. The realization terrified me even more than the echoes of Clara's earlier rebellion. Clara, I urged quietly, desperate to make her see the gravity of the moment, remember what you said about being true to yourself. But my words felt trapped in my throat, unable to provide the guidance she needed. Without missing a beat, Clara turned toward me, her expression reflecting a tumultuous storm of determination wedged against self-doubt. If I do this, then I'm freeing myself to gather my courage in ways I never thought possible, she whispered, fire in her words, but a delicate edge of fear tempered it, and then it happened like a poorly timed downpour during a sun-drenched day. The door to the ballroom swung wide, a gust of wind swirling in with it. A young woman entered, her expression frantic but desperate, holding a phone out before her with trembling hands. I think you need to see this. It's about the engagement. About Clara. Gasps filled the room as the young woman's gaze met Clara's, revealing more than curiosity, it held a haunting knowledge. The murmurs erupted into chaos once more. Clara's eyes widened, her face draining of color as the whispers turned unsettled. What do you mean? She pressed, the urgency palpable in both of us. Before the trembling journalist could respond, I knew something crucial had shifted. The stakes escalated even further. Please, I begged, gripping Clara's hand tighter, whatever it is, we'll get through it together. But as Clara took a step towards the young woman, the camera flashes brightened. The world beyond the ballroom doors was baring its teeth, a demand for the truth screaming louder than the chaos of the moment around us. And in that heartbeat, glaring truth unfolded, waiting to devour us whole. Would the revelations of that phone call change everything, or would they push Clara further into the abyss where the legacy she fought against still loomed large? I felt her pulse quicken as if somewhere in that turning tide, she might find the strength to leap. But I held my breath, knowing only she could choose to weave her story amid the shadows and promises that threatened to drown her. The whispers thickened as Clara's gaze flickered between the woman at the door, the hungry crowd, and the storm brewing in her father's eyes. I could see her mind racing, weighing the implications of whatever unraveling truth lay on that phone. "Clara, you don't have to face this alone," I urged quietly, stepping in close, but my voice faltered against the rising tide of noise. My heart raced as I searched her eyes for a flicker of resolve. The young reporter hesitated, glancing over her shoulder as if she could feel the weight of the audience's collective gaze pressing upon her. I don't know how to explain this," but she stammered, her anxiety spilling into the open. "It's about the engagement and some things people are saying about you." As she finally held the phone up for Clara to see, the screen glinted under the ballroom lights, casting an accusatory glow. Clara edged forward, and I stepped with her, ready to shield her from the world that felt intent on tearing her apart. "What is happening?" Clara demanded, her voice steadying, though fear lingered beneath the surface. The tension in her shoulders told me she was bracing for the worst, and I wanted to reach out, to bolster her courage in this furious storm. The young reporter took a deep breath, collecting her thoughts. "There's a video circulating. It shows a conversation, a very private conversation that was meant to stay hidden." She hesitated again, as if the weight of what she was revealing could topple the room. "You need to see it for yourself." The gasps of the crowd grew louder, a wildfire igniting the air with discomfort and anticipation. Clara's father stepped forward, his face twisted in indignation, but Clara remained fixed on the reporter, her resolve hardening as she came to terms with what this could mean. She was no longer just defending herself against expectations, she was standing on the precipice of a deeper revelation. "Show me," Clara pressed, her voice unwavering. I admired her courage. In that moment, she commanded the narrative surrounding her life. She was determined to reach for the truth, no matter how ugly it might be. With shaking hands, the reporter slid her thumb across the screen, and before I could process anything further, Clara's face paled. The phone illuminated with vivid imagery and broken dialogue. As the video began to play, I could already see the shadows of doubt creeping into Clara's eyes. A connection to a name that had been a whisper behind closed doors, a name that had haunted her all night. Daryl Howard. The video began. He was a son of a powerful businessman with ties to Clara's father, a man I had heard whispers about but never truly connected. The mention alone felt sinister, like a dark cloud gathering on the horizon. Clara grasped the phone tightly, the playbacks depicting a layered dialogue surrounding the engagement and implications of pressure from both families. The words laced with betrayal sank into her heart like stones. My own heart cracked. She was battling demons I had no knowledge of, ones that stretched far beyond our shared moment on the ballroom floor. What broke me the most was not just the revelation itself, but the fear that washed over Clara. It was an invisible shackle that gripped the air around her. If she were truly tied to this man, it would send her spiraling back into the gilded cage of expectations she had fought so fiercely to defy. "I can't be tied to this," Clara whispered, her voice cracking ever so slightly, revealing the fragility beneath her exterior. "This changes everything." From the corner of my eye, I spotted her father reeling, veins pulsing with indignation, his temper on the verge of eruption. He could see his carefully curated world crashing. The crowd seemed suspended, waiting for a reaction they hadn't witnessed before. The richest girl in the room, tangled in a battle she hadn't anticipated, but Clara defied him, turning away from the screen, and I felt a shared pulse between us, fear coupled with determination, like twin flames battling against the dark. The room hushes, the once thunderous atmosphere fell silent, echoing the echo of Clara's heartbeat. "Whatever this is, I will not allow my life to be dictated by secrets and betrayal," Clara said, raising her chin defiantly. "If you think this will deter me, you're wrong. You've tried to control me for so long, but it ends here." Her father moved forward, his voice low and threatening. "Clara, think about your future, about the family name. But Clara did not flinch. This was her moment. "The only future I want is one built on truth, not lies or power plays," she declared. A fierce spark ignited in her emerald eyes, the kind I had never seen before. Then I sensed it, the shift in the crowd, a ripple of admiration instead of scorn, an unexpected solidarity for Clara's fight. The older woman who had quietly supported her throughout stepped closer, arm closing around Clara's shoulders, a protective embrace that filled the room with an untamed warmth. "I stand with you, Clara," she said. "You are not the only one of us who has faced such pressures. Speak your truth, and we will follow." Even before I could comprehend what this meant, Clara shifted the focus back on her father. "You cannot take my voice from me anymore. I will not be used as a pawn in your games." Just then, the reporter distracted the crowd, shifting the conversation back to her, the unidentifiable secrets swirling inside the room demanding answers. Pictures began circulating on screens across the room, expressions twisted in confusion, speculation clawing at their lips, and before I could help Clara navigate this storm spurred by family ties ripping at the seams, another figure burst through the door, surprising everyone. Max, my confidant. But he was not joyfully standing in support. Despair shadowed his face, his eyes locked on Clara, full of dread. "Clara, you need to see what they're saying online. This isn't just about the engagement. There's a rumor, a dangerous one linked to those videos. It's not just speculation anymore, they're questioning loyalty, trust. It's spiraling." The finality in his voice struck me like a heavy bell tolling. I turned to Clara, her face pale and etched with horror. "Clara, please," I said, the urgency pouring between us as confusion and trepidation fell like fog over the ballroom. "Whatever is to come, I'm here. We will figure this out together." Yet even as I spoke the reassurance, I felt the ground shifting beneath us, the walls of uncertainty closing in. What started as a rebellion had morphed into a battlefield, and the air crackled with fragility. Would she be able to withstand this latest revelation? And as Clara looked at me, her heart open yet guarded, I sensed we were still on the verge of an edge. What would it mean to step forward now, holding the ultimate truth? While grief lay heavy on our shoulders, shadows of consequences lingered just beyond the light. The ballroom held its breath, every soul connected by disbelief, and I wondered if this single moment would ignite a change in Clara that would redefine everything she had known. Would love be enough to guide us through? Or would the revelations cast us into darkness? Clara's gaze hardened, and I could only grasp her hand tighter, knowing that whatever awaited us on the other side, we were yet to fully comprehend the depth of the truth that loomed ahead. The crowd's collective breath hitched as Clara stood amidst the swirling chaos of emotions, resolute yet fragile. Her confrontation with her father had splintered the air, charged with an electricity that teetered on the edge of a storm. I felt the weight of her hand in mine, warmth coursing through our connection, anchoring us even as uncertainty loomed. "Max," Clara began, her voice low but steady, "what are they saying? What are the rumors?" The gravity of her words hung heavily in the space between us, pulling at the corners of my mind as I braced myself for the truth. Max swallowed hard, his face lined with worry, and stepped closer. They're saying you're not who you think you are. That your engagement to Daryl isn't purely about love. They're digging into your past, Clara. They found your mother's family." "My mother?" Clara interrupted, her voice rising in disbelief, panic beginning to claw at her composure. "What do they want with her? The papers are claiming she had deep ties to his family. It's all speculation right now, but the way they're framing it suggests the engagement could be more than just a union of two people. It's painting you as a pawn in a game you never signed up to play." It felt as if a cold hand had wrapped itself around Clara's heart, squeezing the hope she harbored. I could see the flicker of worry transforming into something more profound within her, doubt and fear coiling together, threatening to engulf the last vestiges of her courage. "This is insane," Clara murmured, glancing back at her father, whose face was taut with rage and panic, realizing control slipped further from his grip. "I can't," she trailed off, uncertainty shadowing her bravado. "Clara, listen to me." I gently squeezed her hand, forcing her to meet my gaze. What you decide now, in this moment, can determine your future. Don't let them define you. We can combat this together. Clara nodded slowly, the weight of her father and the audience's expectations as heavy as a stone. I refuse to be anyone's pawn. Not now. Not ever. The room's atmosphere shifted, a tension fueled by the flickers of shared experiences, others with their own stories of betrayal and secrecy. I could feel them rallying behind her. Yet in the shadows of that solidarity, the darkness loomed thicker. Clara. Her father's voice boomed, cutting through the urgency of the moment. You don't understand, this isn't just about you. You risk tearing our entire family apart with your recklessness. A wave of defiance surged through Clara. It rippled past the fear, embodying the quiet strength she had unearthed within herself. You never cared about what I wanted, only what I could do for this family. But I am done living for you and all the decisions made behind closed doors. In this moment, Clara wasn't just a millionaire's daughter rebelling, she was a woman stepping into the light of her own identity, illuminated by the shared stories of those surrounding her. And then a voice broke the rising tension. A middle-aged woman with kindness etched in the lines of her face stepped forward, her hands clasped. I've heard the stories about your mother, Clara. You deserve to know the truth about who you are, what truly happened. We can help you. Gasps erupted from the crowd, murmurs blooming like wildflowers in an otherwise desolate field. Clara turned toward the woman, a flicker of hope igniting in her eyes. You know something? The woman nodded sagely and continued, your mother's past is tangled with the Howard family in a way that reaches into the shadows of old debts and forgotten allegiances. They never wanted you to know, but I believe it's time to seek out the truth. It's the only way you can truly reclaim your life. A pulse of realization coursed through Clara, a mix of fear and anticipation igniting her spirit. Then let us find it together. I want to understand my history not through rumors, but through the truth. Whatever it is, I won't shrink away from it. An intangible tension shifted in the air as other figures began to step forward, allies ready to embrace Clara's quest for clarity. But just as hope shimmered in the haze of uncertainty, another figure lurked in the background, the young reporter still holding onto her phone. I caught her eye, and I saw apprehension threaded with determination. Clara, she remarked cautiously, what if the truth is darker than you expect? What if your connections to the Howards seal your fate instead of freeing you? Clara hesitated, weighing the deeply buried fears within her heart against the swelling bravery rising up inside. The room held its breath, poised between dread and hope, as the stakes climbed once more. I'd rather face any truth than continue living in the shadows of a life built on lies, Clara replied, her voice a shadowy echo of defiance against the uncertainty that wrapped around her. I am open to whatever comes next. Nothing can scare me more than losing myself in fear. Yet, as she stood there, fierce and unwavering under the flickering lights, I felt a tremor of doubt wash over me. What if she would regain her identity only to find that her connection to the Howards was far more entangled than anyone anticipated? What if this battle would tear apart the very fabric of her existence? As we prepared to plunge into the depths of her past, I felt a dull ache in my chest. This quest could reshape Clara's life or shatter it entirely. The possibility that awaited us loomed large in front of us, dark and exhilarating. But one truth gnarled my thoughts as we readied ourselves to confront the inevitable. If secrets lay at the heart of Clara's story, where would they lead us? And would facing her past open doors to new beginnings, or would it bring forth the very darkness she sought to escape? The air buzzed with unresolved questions, the ballroom transformed into a citadel of conflicting emotions. I could only hope as we stepped forward together that the revelations sewn into Clara's history would ultimately empower her, and that whatever was hidden would not bury her beneath the weight of its truth. And then, just as Clara prepared to confront the world outside, her expression shifted as if she had suddenly recalled something critical. A potent flash of recognition crossed her features. Wait, there's something I haven't told you, she said, and the air crackled, sharp and uncertain with the potential for a life-altering revelation. Clara, what is it? I asked, breath hitching in my throat, sensing that whatever she was about to share could pivot our fates entirely. The realization seemed to sink deep into her eyes as she hesitated, a secret that may very well unravel the last strings holding her life and our budding relationship together. And in that fleeting moment, just before the words could tumble from her lips, I understood that we were standing on the brink of an abyss. The silence fell heavy around us, pregnant with the weight of the unknown, and all I could do was hold her hand tighter, ready for whatever might emerge from the shadows ahead. The murmurs around us faded into a dull roar, the world beyond Clara and me turning abstract, a canvas smeared with anxiety and anticipation. I saw her struggling between the compulsion to unburden herself and the fear of what would follow. Her fingers trembled slightly in mine, a delicate dance between vulnerability and strength. "Clara, please," I urged, my voice soft enough to not alarm the crowd but sharp enough to slice through the mounting tension. "Whatever it is, I'm here." She took a deep breath, the kind that filled the lungs with defiance, but I could see her struggling with the choice should she share the secret that had weighed her down. Her expression turned introspective, as though she was peeling away layers of herself to expose something raw, something unguarded. "My mother," she started, her voice thin and quivering, like a small bird caught in a storm. "She didn't just leave me. She was taken." The admission hung in the air between us, a fragile thread woven with both loss and lingering anger. The night she disappeared, my father didn't just lose his wife, he lost whatever connection remained to her family. He told me they died in a tragic accident, but I think her voice faltered, I think it was more than that. The crowd quieted, each person straining to listen, hearts brimming with intrigue and empathy. I felt my pulse quickening, my own fears swirling in the maelstrom of her revelation. "More than an accident?" I repeated, a pit forming in my stomach. "It was the Howards," she continued, her voice steadier now, defiance echoing in her words. "They were involved. Somehow, I don't know how, but I remember strange conversations when I was little, hushed tones behind closed doors." The flicker of recollection darkened her gaze, as if she were reliving the fragments of a broken past. "What if her disappearance ties back to the very family you're inextricably linked to?" I murmured, the thought unfurling like a dark specter. The implications sent chills down my spine, and I sensed the crowd shifting uneasily around us, the weight of Clara's truth rippling outward. "Yes," Clara said, suddenly rising with newfound fervor, her determination crystallizing. "I need to uncover the shadows surrounding her past, but I also need to be careful. If my relationship with the Howards runs deeper than I realize, what if they're still watching? What if they don't want me digging?" The unease in the room was palpable, thickening the atmosphere with electric tension. I squeezed her hand tighter, grounding myself in the belief that together, we could traverse these arduous paths. "We'll face them together. We'll dig deep, unveil the lies, and confront whatever it is that lurks beneath." Yet as my words hung in the air, festering doubt gnawed at me. The Howards were a powerful family. What if their reach extended beyond Clara's imagination? In pursuing the truth, would we incur a debt impossible to repay? But Clara was moving, her thoughts racing faster than I could keep up. "I need to talk to people who knew my mother, who can tell me what really happened. I need to piece together the fragments that still bind me to her. There's so much more I don't know." Her fervor was infectious, igniting the crowd anew. The previously silent allies began murmuring their encouragement. They understood the journey Clara was about to embark on. Theirs had been filled with losses and longings as well. But just as the momentum grew, the tension morphed into a sudden, suffocating chill. A figure stood at the edge of the ballroom, watching us intently, a man in a dark suit, radiating an aura of cold authority. His expression was inscrutable, but there was something chillingly familiar about him. The crowd noticed too, falling silent again as his presence demanded attention. "Clara," his voice rang out, smooth and calculated, slicing through the atmosphere. "You're stirring quite the commotion with your little revelations. But I would advise against digging into matters you don't fully understand." Recognizing him, I felt a wave of dread wash over me, the unmistakable shadow of Darrell Howard's uncle, Nathaniel, a man known for silencing those who dared challenge his family. I glanced at Clara, whose fierce spirit still burned, but I could see fear flickering behind her bravery. "What do you want, Nathaniel?" she replied, attempting to mask the tremor in her voice. His lips curled into a condescending smile, but his eyes bore into her with the intensity of a storm brewing on the horizon. "I only wish for you to understand the consequences of exposing truths better left buried. Your investigation could lead to repercussions you cannot predict. Do tread lightly. Some families harbor secrets that are best left undisturbed." A heavy silence descended, a tense exchange thick with unspoken threats. The room was a battleground, Clara standing defiantly against a foe intent on veiling her past. In that moment, Clara met my gaze, and though I felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down, I saw something fierce and unwavering within her. "She wouldn't back down, not now. Maybe the truth is more powerful than your empty threats, Nathaniel. I refuse to live my life in fear of what lies beneath the surface. I will discover my past, and nothing will stop me," Clara declared, resolve resonating through her voice. As the words left her lips, something crackled in the air, a shift that felt monumental. But with it came a renewed urgency, realization coursing through me. The stakes had grown far higher than I could have anticipated, deep entanglements of love and danger beginning to intertwine before our very eyes, and just as the implications of our stand began to settle, Clara stepped closer to Nathaniel, her voice cracking like thunder. "If there are secrets to uncover, then let us see how far you're willing to go to keep them hidden." With that, the tension escalated into an electric pulse, flickering with volatility. I held my breath, knowing that we had crossed a threshold from which there was no turning back. Whatever lay ahead in our pursuit of truth and the formidable challenges posed by a powerful family was unpredictable, a volatile cocktail of hope and despair. But as my hand remained firmly intertwined with Clara's, she reminded me that even in the darkest of storms, courage could light the way forward. But as Nathaniel's smirk deepened, I couldn't help but wonder, what dark truths awaited us on this treacherous path? And what were the ties that bound Clara to those who threatened to unravel everything she stood for? The air crackled around us, thick with unspoken promises and veiled threats, as each heartbeat amplified the realization of our perilous situation. I thought I knew what lay ahead, but Clara's defiance had unleashed a torrent of uncertainties. Nathaniel's presence loomed larger than life, a sinister specter woven into Clara's history, a history that threatened to engulf us both. As the crowd shifted restlessly, I could sense a collective breath being held, their eyes darting between Clara and Nathaniel, weighing the gravity of the confrontation. The tension morphed into something heavier than just fear. It was a shared acknowledgement that we were not merely spectators in this drama, but rather players in a cruel game far beyond our understanding. That we needed to act, to reclaim the momentum that had been stolen in the face of Nathaniel's chilling presence. Clara's gaze flickered between determination and raw fear, and I could feel her heart pounding through our clasped hands. We had come so far, but with each passing second, the stakes escalated perilously. "Let South leave this place," I whispered urgently, wanting to pull her away from the danger, from the menace that blended seamlessly with the shadows around us. I thought of the promise of safety beyond those doors, away from Nathaniel's icy grasp. But Clara's grip tightened ever so slightly, her defiance pushing against my instinct to shield her. "No," she said firmly, her voice steady despite the quaking in her heart. "I won't back down now. I won't allow him to intimidate me like he has others." The quiet strength in her voice lit a fire within me, igniting a determination that I hadn't realized I possessed until that moment. I wanted to protect her, yet I also wanted to confront the shadows together. "We will find a way to fight back," I vowed, matching her intensity, both of us staring down the looming threat together. A glimmer of understanding passed between us, a promise sealed in the silence that hung heavy in the air around Nathaniel. Nathaniel chuckled softly, the sound deceptively smooth, yet dripping with malice. "And how do you plan to fight a battle decades old? You're simply two children playing at being brave, unaware of the consequences." His every word was edged with the kind of cold wisdom that threatened to cut deeper than any knife. "What do you know about bravery?" Clara shot back, raw emotion surging in her chest, her voice quivering with indignation. Maybe you should be more afraid of what I might uncover rather than underestimating my resolve. For a split second, the cold facade slipped from Nathaniel's features, and behind the veneer of amusement, something akin to fear flickered in his eyes. Maybe we weren't as small as he believed. The moment hung heavy, charged with unspoken revelations. Around us, people began to murmur again, encouraged by Clara's spark of courage. I could feel the tides shifting, emotions swirling as they saw two standing against one. But this moment of hope felt fleeting, tainted by the specter of Nathaniel's promises looming in my heart. With a curt nod, Nathaniel turned on his heel, a menacing shadow slinking away at the edge of the ballroom. "Remember, Clara," he called over his shoulder, his voice a low rumble, "some truths are buried for a reason. I hope you're prepared to pay the price for your curiosity." A wave of uncertainty washed over me, and instinctively I turned to Clara, whose resolve had dimmed slightly in the face of his threats. Could we truly bear the weight of uncovering a twisted past? The path ahead was hazy and fraught with peril, yet the flicker of bravery within her was almost palpable, igniting a shared commitment to uncovering the truth at any cost. With Nathaniel's departure, the air shifted again, filling the space with an odd mix of exhilaration and dread. The crowd dispersed, murmuring fervently, their excitement mingling with an air of apprehension. Clara and I stood on the precipice of an unknown journey. Neither could fathom where the path would lead us, but there was an undeniable charge coursing through our shared connection. "Let us find someone who knew my mother," Clara finally said, her eyes alight with a renewed spark, determination seeping through her veins. "We need to start digging right away. I can't let Nathaniel's words stop me." I nodded, my heart racing alongside hers, both of us eager to uncover the truth that had been cloaked in silence for far too long. It felt like a profound commitment, a pledge not only to seek the truth of Clara's mother but to expose the layers of darkness entwining her fate with the Howards. As we stepped out into the night, the crisp air hit us like a rush of clarity, and I felt the weight of our vows settling in. But just beyond the parking lot, where our car waited, a figure emerged from the shadows, drifting closer with a familiarity that made my heart seize. "Clara," the voice was soft yet haunted, drawing our attention as fear washed over her features. The figure paused in the moonlight, and as their face slipped into view, my insides churned violently. It was Marie, Clara's childhood friend, the one who had seemingly vanished from the pages of her past. "Marie?" Clara gasped, the word barely escaping her lips, rounding the edges of bewilderment. The warmth of hope entwined with the echoes of anxiety. Marie's unexpected appearance could herald salvation or trigger a chain of events that could catapult us deeper into perilous territory. "I know everything," Marie whispered, moving closer, haste in her steps and fear dancing in her eyes. "And I need to tell you about your mother, and the Howards." Just then, the fragile web of hope we had woven began to fray at the edges, the shadows closing in around us. Would this revelation lead us toward salvation, or would it sever the last threads binding Clara to her past? As I held Clara's hand, I marveled at the depth of uncertainty that lay ahead, wondering if uncovering one truth would bind us ever closer or tear apart the fragile tapestry of our world. The corner of the parking lot felt like a world apart, an isolated island in a sea of uncertainty. Marie's sudden appearance electrified the air around us, a charged atmosphere buzzing with the tension of memories long dormant. Her eyes darted between Clara and me, laden with secrets that trembled on her lips, ready to spill forth. "Marie, where have you been?" Clara breathed, astonishment mingling with an underlying fear. "I thought you disappeared. I've searched everywhere for you." The moment seemed suspended in time, and for a heartbeat, the chaos of our lives blurred into a singular focus. This girl, this friend, who held pieces of a puzzle that might lead us toward the truth we so desperately sought. "I never meant to leave you like that," Marie said, wringing her hands nervously. "Things got complicated. Nathaniel, he was involved. I had to go underground for my safety." Her words hung heavy in the night air, each syllable laced with unspoken horrors. "Complicated how?" I leaned in, every instinct urging me to press for answers. "What do you know about the Howards? About Clara's mother?" Marie's gaze flickered to the shadows beyond us, as if she could sense the specter of Nathaniel lurking nearby, ready to ensnare us once again. It's not just Nathaniel. There are things you don't understand, secrets that are darker than you can imagine. Clara's mother, she wasn't just anyone. She was involved in things that went beyond mere family feuds. Clara flinched at the implication, her vulnerability laid bare as she searched Marie's face for reassurance. What do you mean? Tell me everything. I need to know, Marie. Marie hesitated, glancing over her shoulder, her breath hitching in her throat. It's not safe to discuss this here. We need to find a place where we won't be overheard, where Nathaniel can't find us. A prickle of anxiety unfurled within me. Even now, as we stood together, the repercussions of our investigation began to ripple outward. Nathaniel was still out there, his reach stretching further than we could see, and I could feel the weight of our choices pressing down on my chest. Where do we go? Clara's voice broke through the tumult of my thoughts, firm, filled with purpose despite the fear gnawing at her. There's a cafe a few blocks away. I know it sounds unassuming, but the owner doesn't care for Nathaniel and has helped me before, Marie replied. It's risky, but we might find allies there. With a reluctant nod, I glanced at Clara, and with her silent affirmation, we began to move toward the unseen challenges waiting ahead. The darkness wrapped around us, and with each step, the shadows blended into the city's fabric, a cloak under which we could potentially unearth the truths we sought. As the cafe's warm glow emerged in the distance, I glimpsed the flickering light of hope against the vast void of doubt. Yet, it felt precariously balanced. The truth could either fortify or shatter the fragile ties that bound Clara and me to one another. Once inside, the scent of coffee wafted through the air, mingling with soft laughter and the clinking of cups. It felt like a sanctuary, yet an underlying tension remained palpable. We slipped into a booth at the back, our breaths coming in uneasy fits as we settled in. Marie's gaze darted toward the entrance, scanning for any signs of danger. Okay, Marie, Clara urged, leaning in, her voice a mix of urgency and resolve. You mentioned secrets. What happened to my mother? What isn't Nathaniel telling me? I can't explain everything right now, Marie whispered, her voice barely above the murmur of the cafe. But your mother was involved with a group that Nathaniel is still tied to. It's why he is so intent on keeping you in the dark. She uncovered something that threatened them, and now, you're standing on the same precipice. The implications washed over us like a wave, dizzying and cold. Clara's face paled, horror crashing against her determination like the tide against the shore. What did she uncover? What are you saying? Before Marie could respond, a figure slid into the booth across from us. Uninvited, unexpected. My heart dropped as I recognized the piercing gaze that dissected the three of us with an unsettling calm. Nathaniel had found us. Such an interesting reunion, he mused, a cruel smile curving his lips. I had a feeling you'd seek out your little friend, Clara. Did you think you could uncover the past without consequences? Foolish. The air thickened with tension, and I felt Clara's hand clutch mine tightly, grounding me as a storm of emotions swirled through the cafe. This was not just about the past. The weight of lives caught in webs of intrigue, betrayal, and secrets long buried loomed before us, threatening to ensnare us. Get away from us, Clara said, voice steady, but I felt her grip trembling against mine. You can't intimidate me anymore. I'm not afraid of you. Nathaniel's expression flickered, bemusement crossing his face. Ah, but fear is not the weapon I wield, Clara. It's the truth you seek that will be your undoing. And you're already too far gone to turn back. With that, the reality of our choices loomed larger than ever, the specter of fate swirling darkly around us. What truths awaited in the shadows, and how far were we willing to go to uncover them? As his words hung in the air, the weight of the unknown pressed upon us, a reminder that our journey had only just begun. The air inside the cafe thickened with a palpable tension as Nathaniel's presence enveloped us, his words carrying the weight of unspoken threats. Clara's defiance simmered, but I could feel the fear coiling within her, a tightening knot that threatened to unravel all the courage she had amassed. Your mother's story is not just hers, it's a web that ensnares you, Clara. Digging too deep might lead to shadows you're unprepared to face, Nathaniel purred, his eyes glinting with a predatory satisfaction. You should think carefully about how far you're willing to go. No, you don't get it. Clara shot back, fire igniting within her steel-lined voice. I won't let your family dictate who I am any longer. Whatever demons lie in my past, I'll face them. I could see the sparks dancing in her emerald eyes, a testament to her resilience. But Nathaniel only chuckled softly, the sound as cold as ice. Bravery can be a double-edged sword, he warned. It will cut, but only if you let it. Proceed with caution, Clara. Curiosity could lead straight to your demise. And remember, loyalty has a price. Someone always pays. His words clawed their way into the corners of my heart, each syllable laced with the promise of danger. As Nathaniel leaned back, I found my voice amid the storm. You're not going to intimidate her with your threats. Clara is stronger than you think, and we're not afraid to uncover the truth about her mother or your family. Nathaniel's laughter was devoid of warmth. Ah, the gall, defending her while harboring precious little could set the stage for your own downfall. You lot are quite foolish. I've invested too much in maintaining the status quo, and I won't let you and your naive ambitions upend everything. I felt the tremor in Clara's hand, but she remained steadfast by my side. Whatever grip your family has on me ends now. I refuse to be a pawn in your game. If my mother faced you and whatever secrets threatened to resurface, then I'll do the same. A subtle shift in Nathaniel's demeanor caught my attention. The amusement flickering across his face gave way to a more serious expression, a mask of calculating menace. As you wish, Clara. If you truly believe you're prepared, search for those answers. But be warned, the truth is often far more sinister than ever imagined. It could expose more than the shadows of your family's past, it could unravel your entire life. Clara inhaled deeply, her determination hardening into iron resolve. I could see how close she was to breaking through the ties that had bound her for so long. Then we'll see how deeply you're willing to fight to keep those secrets buried. If I must face the darkness ahead, I'll do it on my terms. But remember this, I won't cower in fear when I uncover what you've been hiding. As Nathaniel rose, his warning echoed in the space between us, a reminder of the stakes we now faced. He leaned in, his voice low and icy, layered with finality. So be it. When you're ready to explore what you're truly up against, you'll find me waiting, Clara. But mark my words, you will not like what you uncover. With that, he strode out of the cafe, leaving a chilling void in his wake that in Nathaniel's absence. The air felt lighter but also charged with unrelenting anticipation. I turned to Clara, seeing the fight within her, witnessing her flicker of doubt erased by a growing conviction. All those things he's woven into that threat. I whispered tightly. You're stronger than he knows. Your truth is your power and you can't lose sight of that. She nodded, her expression resolute. If it means redeeming my mom's legacy, then I need to push forward. The warmth of strength radiated between us, a tether of hope igniting the resolve to uncover her past. Marie leaned in, her voice fierce. You both are right. As much as the truth can hurt, lay it bare. The deeper we delve, the closer we move to unlocking the answers that lie hidden. Clara's breath caught in her throat, a flicker igniting her brave heart. Then we need to understand everything that connects me to my mother and those ties to the Howards, she stated, her voice lined with determination. It's time we bring light to the darkness together. As the weight of our commitment settled within the space, I felt a sense of renewed purpose. No longer would we live in the shadows of destiny forged by others. We would forge our own. The night unfolded with whispers of the past, a promise to untangle the truth before us. As we shared our thoughts and feelings, a sacred pact bound by a shared struggle, the world transformed. No longer were we just a daughter, a friend, and an onlooker. We became warriors of truth, with that promise stitched tightly among us. We took our first steps into the mysteries above, beyond the cafe walls, unwavering in our pursuit, ready to shine light into the hidden corners of Clara's past. And together, we braced ourselves to unveil the secrets that threatened to shatter the very foundations upon which we stood. As a gentle breeze brushed against our faces, compelling yet calm, I turned to Clara, feeling the electric charge between us grow, one that promised sanctuary among the storm. "No matter what happens from here, I'll stand by you. You won't have to face any of this alone," I vowed, my heart intertwined with a mix of fear and hope. The resolve echoing in her eyes radiated no mere flicker, but a blazing light ready to illuminate the shadows. "I know. And together, we will navigate through whatever awaits us." But as we stepped out into the unknown, I couldn't shake the lingering doubt weaving through my heart. What would we discover on this tangled path, and how would the truth redefine our lives? Would the light extinguish the shadows, or would they provoke a darkness insurmountable, forever binding us together in a struggle against the secrets that had haunted Clara for far too long? One thing was certain, though: as long as we faced the unknown together, we would fight to reclaim not just Clara's past but the beauty of our entwined futures. A promise to trust, to uncover, and most importantly, to embrace who she truly was at her core. The beginning of the end was finally upon us, the moment we would reclaim her narrative, no longer bound by expectations and fears. And as we walked into the night, the taste of freedom nestled in the echoes of our footsteps. I knew our fight had just begun. What lies beyond the shadows remained unknown, but I held on to the hope that, whatever truths awaited us, love and courage would guide us forward into the light.